Imagine being trapped in a world where luxury masks terror, where love morphs into manipulation, and saying no could cost you your home, your safety, even your dignity. On day 19 of Sean Diddy Combs' high-stakes federal racketeering trial, a woman known only as Jane took the stand, delivering a heart-wrenching testimony that peeled back the curtain on a dark saga of alleged violence, coercion, and extortion. Her words, backed by chilling text messages and audio recordings, painted a picture of a music mogul wielding power to control those closest to him, allegedly orchestrating illicit freak-offs and threatening to expose compromising videos to silence dissent. As the jury listened, Jane's story brought Diddy closer to the racketeering charges that could redefine his legacy. Let's dive into the gripping details of her testimony, a pivotal chapter in one of the most explosive trials of our time. Sean Diddy Combs, a global music icon, faces federal charges of racketeering, a crime historically used to dismantle organized crime syndicates like the Mafia. The prosecution alleges that Diddy operated a criminal enterprise involving sex trafficking, extortion, and coercion, using his wealth, influence, and staff to facilitate illegal activities. Central to the case are the so-called freak-offs, alleged events where male escorts were paid to engage in sexual acts with Diddy's girlfriends while he watched, recorded, and masturbated. Jane, testifying under a pseudonym, is one of several witnesses, including Diddy's ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura, whose accounts aim to prove a pattern of illegal behavior within Diddy's inner circle. On day 19 of the trial, Jane's third day on the stand brought forth explosive allegations that could sway the jury's perception of Diddy's actions, offering a detailed look into a relationship marked by financial dependence, emotional manipulation, and physical violence. Jane's testimony began with a vivid recounting of a hotel night in New York, one of the alleged freak-offs at the core of the prosecution's case. She described being coerced into sexual activity with a male escort named Cabral while Diddy observed, recorded, and masturbated. Jane told the jury that she participated not out of desire but out of fear of losing her financial stability, as Diddy allegedly threatened to cut off her apartment and livelihood if she refused. She described these events as loveless, cold sex that left her desensitized, emphasizing that she complied to avoid Diddy's wrath, which she initially characterized as financial torture, threats to take away her apartment, income, and security. Jane testified that she felt trapped as Diddy controlled her housing and other expenses, creating a dynamic where refusal could lead to destitution. Days after the New York hotel night, Jane met Diddy in Miami, where he brought up the footage from the event, expressing a desire to watch it. According to her testimony, Diddy arranged for Cabral to be flown from either Atlanta or New York to Miami for a part 2 of the hotel night, which Jane described as a continuation of the coerced sexual activity. She highlighted the significance of the travel arrangements, as flying escorts across state lines aligns with the prosecution's allegations of interstate travel for illegal sexual purposes, a potential predicate act for racketeering. Jane testified that she repeatedly told Diddy she did not want to participate in these events, but felt compelled to comply due to her financial dependence on him. She described the hotel nights as dehumanizing, stating that they felt like performances for Diddy's gratification, with no regard for her emotional or physical well-being. By October 2023, Jane's relationship with Diddy had deteriorated significantly, marked by heated text exchanges that prosecutors presented as evidence of coercion and manipulation. On October 15, 2023, Jane texted Diddy, venting about feeling dismissed and dehumanized. "I'm not an animal. I'm not a porn star." She expressed exhaustion from being forced to have sex with strangers for 3 years, writing, "It's been 3 years of me having to fuck strangers." "I'm tired," Diddy responded dismissively, texting, "Girl, stop. You know I don't fuck into this. I need you, and later I really need you. I'm asking you not to do this." Jane told the jury that these messages reflected her resistance to the freak-offs, but Diddy's responses minimized her concerns, often brushing them off as overreactions. She described feeling like her pleas were ignored, as Diddy continued to push for her participation in the events she found degrading. The text exchanges revealed Jane's anger after seeing photos of Diddy with an ex-girlfriend online, which she said hit her hard, as she had never met his exes. Diddy texted, "Your detective skills got your mind going crazy," referring to her reaction to the photos. Jane replied, "I'm not a porn star." And later, "I regret everything, dark, toxic shit," indicating her growing resentment toward the relationship and the freak-offs. On October 16, 2023, Diddy texted, "Let's spend the day, just me and you, no strangers, please." Jane accused him of love bombing, a manipulative tactic where he would shower her with affection to regain control. She texted, "I'm not trying to fuck strangers to fulfill your fetishes. You want to have me suck some dick so you can jet off to an island with Gina." Diddy dismissed her as tripping, but Jane insisted she was drained and needed a break, texting, "Please just leave me alone." An hour later, Diddy texted again, "I need you for real," and sent a voice note saying, "I need you, girl." Jane testified that she stopped answering his calls to avoid being drawn back into his control, believing his behavior intensified when he was coming down from drug use. She described his texts as erratic, flipping between affection and aggression, which she attributed to his alleged substance abuse. These digital exchanges shown in court served as critical evidence of Jane's resistance and Diddy's alleged manipulation, supporting the prosecution's narrative of coercion. Jane told the jury that she felt gaslit, as Diddy would alternate between promising affection and threatening to cut her off, creating a cycle of emotional manipulation that kept her tethered to the relationship. Jane's testimony underscored her financial dependence on Diddy, which she said was a key factor in her compliance with the freak-offs. On October 20th, 2023, she texted Diddy, "Good morning," and asked for money to furnish her mostly unfurnished home, as she had gone into debt trying to make it livable. Diddy did not respond initially, and when he did, his voice note avoided the money issue, stating, "Leave me the fuck alone, I need to chill. I'm single." Jane followed up on October 21st, texting, "Can you communicate back?" and later expressed feeling abandoned and left high and dry. She told the jury that Diddy was never too busy for a hotel night but seemed unresponsive when she needed financial support, reinforcing her sense of being controlled through her financial vulnerability. In subsequent texts, Jane accused Diddy of violating and manipulating her, describing their relationship as a toxic-ass relationship. She asked for money again, referencing her compliance with his demands despite her reluctance, writing, "I already did not want to do anything and I did. You had me feeling a little crazy." Diddy responded, "You threatened me," referring to a phone call where Jane expressed frustration, pain, and agony. Jane testified that Diddy turned the situation around, threatening to stop paying her rent, which left her livid. She fired back, "I'm not Gina, I'm not Cassie," indicating she would not leave quietly like his exes, and warned, "Don't play with me. Honor the 2 years," referencing a so-called love contract that allegedly outlined their arrangement. Jane explained that this contract was an informal agreement where Diddy promised to support her financially in exchange for her availability and compliance with his demands, including the freak-offs. Jane told the jury that Diddy's threats to cut off her rent made her feel financially trapped, as she relied on him to cover her $10,000 monthly apartment and other expenses. She described this as a form of control where Diddy used his financial power to coerce her into compliance. In one message, she wrote, "Stick to your word and that's it. I heard that evil coming out of you," referring to a shift in Diddy's tone that she found menacing. She also mentioned experiencing real-life triggering PTSD from the hotel nights, underscoring the emotional toll of the alleged coercion. Jane testified that the constant threat of losing her home created a sense of desperation, making it difficult to break free from Diddy's influence despite her growing discomfort with the relationship. One of the most serious allegations came when Jane testified that Diddy threatened to show explicit hotel night videos to her child's father if she didn't comply with his demands. This threat, she said, occurred after she declined to travel to Miami to comfort Diddy following Cassie Ventura's November 2023 lawsuit against him, which accused him of similar abuses. Jane testified that she panicked and contacted Diddy's longtime chief of staff, Christina K. Courtroom, for help. Text messages shown in court corroborated this, with Jane writing to KK that she normally wouldn't involve her in personal matters but felt compelled to because Diddy was threatening her with tapes filmed while she was heavily drugged. She pleaded with KK to talk some sense into him, expressing fear that the videos could destroy her personal life. Jane testified that KK called her, urging her to stay calm and suggesting that she and Diddy give each other space to avoid a situation like Cassie's lawsuit. Jane interpreted this as a veiled warning about potential legal consequences if she escalated the situation. She also asked KK for help hiding phones containing the explicit videos, but KK gave no direct response, instead advising Jane to de-escalate. Jane told the jury that KK's response left her feeling unsupported as she was desperate to protect herself from Diddy's alleged extortion. The involvement of KK, a key member of Diddy's staff, is significant, as it suggests that Diddy's enterprise, his network of employees and associates, may have facilitated or covered up illegal activities, a critical component of the racketeering charges. Jane testified that KK's role as a mediator in this incident made her feel like the enterprise was complicit in Diddy's efforts to control her, further isolating her in the relationship. In December 2023, Jane sent Diddy a screenshot of something triggering she saw on social media, though the court was not told its exact contents. She texted Diddy to stop drugging women and stop emotionally harming people, pleading, "Let that stop with me." Diddy accused her of trying to set me up, but the text took an emotional turn, with Jane expressing feelings of being a side chick and a sex worker in her own relationship. She told the jury that this statement was significant, as it reflected her sense of being exploited in a relationship that felt transactional and degrading. Diddy responded by asking about a Christmas gift, to which Jane replied that she could barely afford gifts for her own child, stating, "I'm not the same person anymore." She described the relationship as a shameful, dark secret she shared only with Diddy, whom she still called my partner, my love, despite the pain it caused her. In January 2024, Jane took a trip to Las Vegas with a platonic friend, a rapper, and his girlfriend. At a party, she unexpectedly encountered Antoine, another escort from previous hotel nights, engaging in sexual activity with a woman she didn't recognize while others watched. Jane testified that she reacted calmly, exchanging greetings with Antoine, but the encounter was unsettling. She told the jury that seeing Antoine outside the context of Diddy's control was jarring, as it was the first time she had encountered him independently. The incident underscored the pervasive reach of the hotel nights, as Jane found herself confronted with reminders of her experiences even in social settings unrelated to Diddy. When prosecutors asked Jane directly if she consented to the hotel nights, she replied, "I'm still trying to figure that out." She admitted that she sometimes arranged the events herself, selecting escorts she knew to avoid strangers, but described this as a survival tactic to regain some control in a situation where she felt powerless. Jane testified that she felt coerced into participating, as Diddy's financial threats, such as cutting off her rent, left her with little choice. She explained that arranging the events with known escorts was her way of mitigating the trauma of being forced to engage with strangers, but it did not reflect genuine consent. Her uncertainty about consent is likely to be a focal point during cross-examination, as the defense may argue that her participation in arrangements suggest willingness rather than coercion. Jane's testimony also addressed the profound impact of Cassie Ventura's November 2023 lawsuit against Diddy, which detailed allegations of violence, coercion, and abuse similar to Jane's experiences. Jane told the jury that she almost fainted upon reading the 35-page complaint, as 3 specific pages mirrored her own experiences almost word for word. She said, "I couldn't sleep. It felt like a nightmare. I felt so bad," highlighting the emotional resonance of Cassie's claims. The lawsuit, which became a public sensation, added pressure to Diddy's legal troubles and amplified Jane's fears about her own situation, as she saw parallels between her experiences and Cassie's allegations. Prosecutors introduced a transcript and audio recording of a phone call from November 19, 2023, shortly after the lawsuit was filed. In the recording, Diddy's voice was heard saying, "I'm really sorry you're feeling this way. My love is real. I thought it was some kinky shit we both enjoyed." He urged Jane to contact KK if she needed anything and added, "Please pray for me. I'll be praying for you too." Jane testified that she was unaware the call was recorded and interpreted Diddy's comment about not worrying as a reference to her rent, which he continued to hold over her as a means of control. The recording provided direct evidence of Diddy's response to Jane's distress, potentially undermining his defense by showing his acknowledgement of her pain while minimizing it as part of their relationship dynamics. By February 2024, after weeks of no contact, Diddy reconnected with Jane, texting, "Sending you love. Had a dream about you. I miss my pretty smile." Jane responded cautiously, citing trauma from past birthdays with Diddy, which she felt were minimized compared to celebrations for other women. Despite her hesitation, she agreed to a birthday celebration, which initially felt romantic and beautiful. However, after taking ecstasy, Diddy allegedly coerced her into sexual activity with Dawn, a former entertainer from previous hotel nights, while he watched. Jane said she complied because it felt familiar, and she felt defeated, highlighting the cyclical nature of the alleged coercion where moments of affection were followed by pressure to participate in unwanted sexual activities. Tensions escalated when Diddy discovered texts from a man named Bear who had been sending Jane money. Jane testified that Diddy exploded, texting, "You're making your own money. Hopefully we can have a clean break," which she interpreted as a threat to cut off her rent. She requested 3 months' rent, $10,000, to stabilize her life, emphasizing her financial vulnerability. Shortly after, Jane received a message from Diddy's accountant stating that her lease would end in April, which she saw as a sign of financial coercion. The involvement of Diddy's accountant, a member of his enterprise, suggests that Diddy may have leveraged his staff to enforce financial coercion, aligning with the prosecution's racketeering allegations that Diddy used his organization to facilitate illegal activities. In March 2024, federal authorities raided Diddy's properties, seizing electronics and other evidence as part of the investigation into the racketeering charges. Jane testified that on the same day the feds visited her home, prompting her to try contacting Diddy, who didn't answer. She was advised by his team to contact his lawyer, and Diddy paid for her initial and current attorneys. Jane confirmed under oath that her current attorney is still being paid by Diddy, raising questions about potential conflicts of interest that may be explored during cross-examination. The raids marked a turning point in the case as they signaled the seriousness of the federal investigation and the potential for significant evidence to be uncovered, including electronics that could contain recordings or communications related to the alleged freak-offs. Jane also testified about another extortion attempt, this time from Cabral, the escort from the New York and Miami hotel nights. She said Cabral threatened to release a 35-minute video of her engaging in sexual activity during a hotel night unless she paid $10,000, claiming the footage was recorded accidentally when Diddy picked up Cabral's phone instead of his own during the session. Jane said she called Diddy in tears and he promised his lawyers would handle it. She later contacted Cabral directly, refusing to pay, and the tape was never released. However, a major media company contacted Jane to say they had purchased the tape and sought a comment, though it remains unreleased. This incident, if substantiated, could lead to charges against Cabral and further support the prosecution's case by demonstrating a pattern of extortion linked to Diddy's activities, reinforcing the narrative of a criminal enterprise. A significant moment in Jane's testimony occurred when she described being in Miami with Diddy when one of his sons knocked on the door and said, "Something happened." Jane checked her phone and saw the now infamous CNN video of Diddy assaulting Cassie Ventura in a hotel hallway, which had gone viral and intensified public scrutiny of Diddy's behavior. Jane testified that she helped Diddy's team craft an apology, providing feedback and approving an initial version she felt was appropriate given the circumstances. However, when she later saw the apology released on social media, it differed significantly, appearing less heartfelt after his lawyer's revisions. Jane's involvement in the apology process highlights her complex role in Diddy's life, as she was both a victim of his alleged abuses and, at times, drawn into his efforts to manage the fallout from his actions. The most dramatic testimony described an alleged violent incident on June 18, 2024, at Jane's home, which marked a chilling escalation in her relationship with Diddy. After accusing Diddy of dating a woman she believed was underage, Jane said she shoved his head into a counter, prompting Diddy to chase her through the apartment, kicking down multiple doors to reach her. She alleged he kicked her in the thigh, choked her, punched her in the forehead and near her eye, and dragged her by her hair back to the master bedroom. Jane fled barefoot, hiding behind a wall for what felt like 2 hours, with no shoes, no phone, and no plan, just trying to survive. When she returned home, hoping Diddy had left, she found him still there, intensifying her fear. Jane locked herself in the guest room, but Diddy allegedly kicked in that door too. In the backyard, Jane said she punched Diddy in the temple, screaming, "I hate you," and he retaliated, punching her twice, once in the forehead and once near her eye, and kicking her several times while yelling that she was trying to take him away from his kids and family. Jane testified that she fell to the ground, curled into a ball, and covered her face and head, but the blows kept coming. At some point, she grabbed Diddy's phone and called the woman they had been arguing about, asking if she had been on a family trip to Utah. The woman responded with insulting remarks, and Jane shouted, "He's beating my ass right now," before Diddy ended the call. Jane also said Diddy FaceTimed his assistant to confirm he wasn't with another woman on the Utah trip, suggesting there may be digital records of these communications that could corroborate her account. In the shower afterward, Jane noticed 2 large lumps on her head and a black eye. Diddy allegedly followed her into the shower and slapped her 3 times, causing her to fall each time. Later, he told her to put ice on her injuries and get dressed, which she understood to mean wearing lingerie. Jane testified that Diddy then picked up her phone to cast pornography onto the TV and texted Antoine, the escort from previous hotel nights, with casual messages like, "What are you doing?" However, Diddy noticed that Jane had exchanged messages with Antoine in Las Vegas, which enraged him. Jane said Diddy told her to open the gate for Antoine, and the rest of the night was awkward and uncomfortable. Diddy forced her to take an ecstasy pill and perform oral sex on Antoine while he watched, despite her visible injuries. Jane said Diddy instructed her to cover her bruises with makeup, saying, "You're not going to ruin my night," and that she was responsible for paying Antoine with reimbursement from Diddy's team. The involvement of Diddy's staff in facilitating these payments further supports the prosecution's claim that Diddy used his enterprise to break the law, a key element of the racketeering charges. Jane confirmed that she is cooperating with prosecutors and attends therapy paid for by Diddy. She testified that she stopped aiding Diddy's defense team once she realized she was being loyal to him instead of the truth. When asked about Diddy today, Jane said, "I pray for his continued healing, and I pray for peace for him," reflecting a complex mix of emotions toward a man she alleges subjected her to years of abuse. Her testimony continues, with cross-examination expected to challenge her credibility, particularly regarding her role in arranging hotel nights, her financial dependence on Diddy, and her uncertainty about consent. The defense is likely to argue that Jane's actions, such as organizing some of the freak-offs and maintaining contact with Diddy, suggest complicity rather than coercion, setting the stage for a contentious courtroom battle. Jane's testimony is a cornerstone of the prosecution's case, as it not only details alleged acts of violence and extortion, but also implicates Diddy's staff, such as Courtroom and his accountant, in facilitating these activities. The text messages, audio recordings, and other evidence presented in court provide corroboration for her claims, strengthening the prosecution's argument that Diddy operated a criminal enterprise. The parallels between Jane's experiences and those of Cassie Ventura, whose lawsuit and assault video have loomed large over the trial, underscore a pattern of behavior that prosecutors hope will convince the jury of Diddy's guilt. As the trial progresses, Jane's testimony will remain a focal point, offering a harrowing glimpse into the personal cost of Diddy's alleged actions and the complex dynamics of power, control, and survival in his world.